It's time again to check out another handful of re-release games to make their way to the Nintendo Switch, but some concessions and changes have been made and the results, for better or worse, are noticeable. Unless otherwise noted, these games are more or less identical to the previous versions we've already reviewed, so for a much more in-depth look at each of them, be sure to check out their full reviews, which are linked below. So, without further ado, let's take a closer look. We took a look at Moss's Raiden 5 Director's Cut in episode 196 of Bullet Heaven, and we were less than impressed with it than any other entry in the Raiden series. While it looked mostly great and its music was fantastic, a number of other issues made it less good than we expected, and it is, if nothing else, the least Raiden game to date. As it stands, Raiden 4 Overkill and DX are our favorites in the series, and that's nothing that can be quote-unquote corrected. A couple of key complaints is the odd life bar system, locked-in widgets, and a Tate-unfriendly aspect ratio which results in a lack of Tate altogether. There are also places like this stage where the scale is completely messed up. How big is this friggin' building? Perhaps the worst feature of all though is the completely stupid story. Coffee, mumbling dialogue, wonky sound balance, stiff acting, and feedback that doesn't match the player performance. You know, like getting chided for missing too many enemies when just shy of 100% have been dealt with. It's just plain irritating.
Your destruction rate is pretty low. Captain, you weren't very efficient out there. I'm sure there's no...
Ow, you!
Well, I'd like to relax over a coffee now, but it seems that's not possible. What's the report?
I can't have my coffee. Come on. Compounding this is the simple fact that Raiden 5 is also way too long and drawn out. This game lasts for a long-ass time compared to, once again, every other game in the series, and it's compounded with the eye-rolling coffee-soaked story. But where the game actually counts, we can't really say much bad about the Switch version of Raiden 5 Director's Cut. Compared to the PS4 and Steam versions, the Switch version is still reasonably sharp, but with less in the way of lighting effects, bloom, polygons, and textures to maintain 60 frames per second, most of the time. As such, while Raiden 5 still looks good, there are still portions of the game that chunk up and slow down every now and again. But there are also some baffling new choices as well, not the least of which involves its online features. Not only is the cheer system locked behind the Nintendo Online subscription service, the score graphing is as well. In the PS4 and Steam versions, players could just connect and be done with it without any need of any sort of additional subscription, but the Switch, better pony up if you want to get that passive online fix. I mean, thankfully for us, we got a subscription with Tetris 99, so it's active here, but before, there was nothing but a useless left-hand side, widget-wise. It's so dumb. You know, though, unlike what a lot of people seem to think the last time around, despite all of its problems, Raiden 5 Director's Cut on PlayStation 4 was good. Not great, granted, but good. But on the Switch, it's less good. PlayStation 4 is the way to go this time around. The Switch version of Raiden 5 Director's Cut gets a 3 out of 5.
Why don't you connect to it?
今こそ真の願いを果たす時です。
Raiden 5 Director's Cut isn't the only game from Moss to see release on the Switch this year. Caladrius Blaze also made its way to Nintendo's hybrid system as well. We took a look at Vanilla Caladrius on Xbox 360 back in episode 141 of Bullet Heaven, as well as the PlayStation 4 version of Caladrius Blaze in episode EX33, and well, we really dug it. Generally speaking, the Switch version of the game is 100% faithful to the PlayStation 4 version with regards to its content. Everything we took a look at before is present here as well, so players looking for an in-depth shooting experience with a bit of cheesecake on the go should be satisfied. Should be. Kind of. There are once again a few issues with this version of the game. For one, the visuals in general look very blurry, particularly when playing docked. Taking into consideration that the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 versions of Caladrius, and as we saw Raiden 5, had much sharper imagery, we can't really think of a reason why Caladrius would suffer in this manner. Like Raiden 5 as well, the sound balance in Caladrius Blaze is all kinds of buggered up. A lot of finagling was needed to get it to sound acceptable. And speaking of acceptable sound, the music in Caladrius Blaze is presented in monaural, while the sound effects are still presented in stereo. Not a huge deal, but some players might be put off with this. Maybe. Kind of. But despite these issues, Caladrius Blaze is still a ton of fun to play, and it's well worth the space on your SD card, or physically if that's your thing. For its minor issues though, Caladrius Blaze on Nintendo Switch gets a 4 out of 5. In Bullet Heaven episode 203, we took a look at Power Rumi on Steam. It took a neat approach to its presentation, taking place in a, Anthro-futuristic setting? Yeah, I made that up. Anyway, we liked its kind of neat yet inexplicably lacking design choices, and its charge crush heal system that's not totally unlike Ikaruga, though it uses 3 colors rather than just 2. It definitely wasn't a bad game overall, but we had a few issues with it. The sound, for example, was a bit lacking in ways that we never really did figure out, despite its great sound effects. There were also memory issues that forced a lot of slowdown on our system at one specific point, which at the time was deemed unfixable by Manufacturer 43. The 2019 Switch version of Power Rumi is more or less the same as the PC version, but it has been scaled back in a couple of noticeable areas. Specifically, Power Rumi runs at just 30 frames per second rather than 60. The visuals maintain their look very well on the Switch though, which would really have been impressive if the frame rate was maintained in the transition. The Switch version of Power Rumi also adds a neat feature though. Players had the option of playing with the Joyful ship, which takes on the colors of the Joy-Cons in use at the time. Players can mix and match the Joy-Cons they use to make some really cool color combinations, which ended up just being great for us because we used a third-party controller with a proper D-pad. One unfortunate aspect to Power Rumi on the Switch is the gnarly input delay that accompanies what used to be decent control. The original was pretty squirrely at times, but now they're just plain lagged out. Manufacturer 43 is aware of the issue and have gone on record to say that they are looking for and developing a fix, but that was also some time ago and it's still present with all of the latest updates patched in on a 1 millisecond monitor and a wired controller. Power Rumi is still a game that should be checked out, but maybe on a platform that allows for a better frame rate and snappier controls. For its unfortunate issues, Power Rumi on the Switch gets a 3 out of 5.
Cobalt King calling headquarters. 1200.
Sine Mora is also one of those titles we took a look at not once, but twice on Bullet Heaven. First on the Xbox 360 with its vanilla downloadable version in episode 49, then on PlayStation 4 as Sine Mora EX in episode 182. There seems to be a bunch of controversy out there with regards to whether or not Sine Mora is even a good game, but we can say with certainty that it is, and an affordable one at that. In addition to the PlayStation 4, PC, and Xbox One versions, Sine Mora EX was also released to the Nintendo Switch, and it made it through the transition smoothly and pretty much entirely intact. There is, however, a nasty front-end load time. Thankfully, this is the only really noticeable load time in the entire thing. All of the voiceovers and features from the PlayStation version are all here, save, of course, for trophy support. The visuals and sound are near to identical as possible as well, running at a smooth 60 frames per second in all the places that matter. Oh yeah, as an aside, let me show you how to deal with this quote-unquote impossible part. See, the trick is that Sine Mora is based around analog control, so you can fine-tune the speed of your craft on the fly at any time. If you use digital control, yeah, your ship is going to fly into the walls. But use the analog stick and you can do this every single time. Sine Mora might get a bum rap in certain circles, but we pretty much love everything that's here. Sine Mora EX on Switch maintains its 4.5 out of 5.
Dryad, I made it through. Third, fourth, and fifth charges out.
That's another batch of shmuppy goodness. Well, mostly, for the Switch. We may yet see more of these in the future. Of course, other consoles will likely see the same treatment, not just the Switch. Our next episode sort of follows the same mode, but in this case, we're taking a look at one single re-release game. This time, a PC conversion that made its way to the Dreamcast this year. See you all in the next episode.